Harvard went silent, the billionaire guest speaker just froze. Two graduates had walked on stage. Both his face, both calling his ex-wife mom. What happened 15 years ago was finally catching up, and there's nowhere to run. Jerry Williams leaned back on the leather of his Rolls-Royce as Kelvin, the silent and loyal driver, steered down Mulholland Drive. His eyes were hidden behind tinted sunglasses, his mind somewhere between boardroom deals and tonight's private party at Roman's new lounge. To the world, he was everything: young, wealthy, charismatic. To his wife, Laura, he was becoming a stranger. Inside the grand home with glass walls and imported marble, Laura stirred pasta on the stove. The steam fogged her glasses. She hadn't heard from Jerry since morning. No call, no text, nothing. The scent of rosemary and garlic filled the kitchen, but she had lost her appetite. A single candle flickered on their dining table, set for 2. Again, she checked the time. 9:38 p.m. He wasn't coming. Laura turned off the stove and walked to their bedroom, her silk robe brushing the floor. She sat at the edge of the bed and stared at the door. She didn't cry. Not tonight. "Jerry, we haven't been to church in months," Laura said softly, wrapping her arms around him one Sunday morning. He was scrolling through Instagram, shirtless, still in bed. "Church? Babe, God lives in my heart. Not in a building. But we made vows. We used to pray together." He kissed her forehead but didn't respond. A minute later, he was messaging Roman. They met every Friday night at a private cigar lounge in Westwood, Jerry and his so-called brothers. Derek, loud, flashy, with 3 divorce settlements under his belt. Silas, bitter and cynical, convinced every woman was after his wallet. Roman, the nightlife king, owner of multiple clubs, including Lucent, where Jerry would eventually meet Sharon. Tobe, the philosophical fraud, quoting scriptures between sips of whiskey while encouraging infidelity. "She's too loyal, bro," Derek smirked one night, sipping his aged bourbon. "That kind of woman makes you lazy. You need tension to stay alive." Jerry chuckled, but something about the statement struck him. Laura was loyal. Too loyal, maybe. Tobe leaned in, eyes sharp. "You're losing your edge, Jerry. All that domestic crap? That's not who you are anymore. You've evolved. Don't let your woman hold you back." That night, Jerry didn't go home. He stayed out until dawn. "I want to believe he's still in there," Laura said tearfully as she clutched a tissue. Becky, their longtime friend and certified counselor, sat across from her with gentle eyes. "I've seen this pattern before, Laura. Men of wealth under influence drifting. The more you chase him, the more he'll run. You may need to take a break." Laura shook her head. "I made a vow before God, for better or worse. I'm not leaving. I'll fight. I'll pray. He's my husband." Becky didn't argue. "Then you'll need to be stronger than his demons." It was just past 8 p.m. when Laura returned home from visiting a childhood friend. The air was still and unusually quiet. As she opened the front door, she noticed something off. A trail of clothes led down the hallway, men's shoes, a silk dress that wasn't hers, high heels. Her heart thudded. She walked silently toward the master bedroom. Laughter. Her hand trembled on the doorknob. She opened it. Time stopped. There he was, Jerry, half-dressed, lying in their bed with a woman Laura had never seen. The woman was giggling, straddling him, drinking champagne. Laura didn't scream. She didn't move. She just stared, like a ghost looking at her own funeral. Jerry froze. The woman pulled the sheets up, giggling still, oblivious. "Laura," he finally muttered. She turned around and walked out. Not a word, not a tear. Outside, the night air hit her like a slap. "Kelvin," she called, voice breaking for the first time. The driver rushed from his quarters. "Yes, ma'am. Take me to my father's house," she whispered. "Now." "Yes, ma'am." She didn't look back as the mansion faded behind her. Not once. Her father, Mr. Madison, didn't ask questions. His embrace was silent but strong. A man who'd built empires from dust. Yet here he was, powerless to stop his daughter's heartbreak. Her mother, and insisted they see Dr. Kennedy the next day. Laura had been complaining of stomach aches for weeks. She thought it was stress. It wasn't. "You're pregnant, Laura," Dr. Kennedy said softly. She blinked. "What?" "With twins. You're about 11 weeks. Her body sagged into the chair. God. After all this, just when she thought she had nothing left. She wept for the first time in days. Jerry popped champagne with Sharon, the new woman. The one with loud laughter and expensive perfume. She had moved in fully now. Wore Laura's robes. Used her favorite tea mugs. They made love in rooms Laura once prayed in. He didn't know about the pregnancy. Didn't care to ask. Sharon told him she wanted children too. They tried. Nothing. Tests. Scans. More tests. The doctor finally spoke the truth Jerry didn't want to hear. Her womb has sustained irreversible damage from past terminations. "I'm sorry." Jerry looked at Sharon. She looked away. Two young black men, tall, dignified, confident, walked across Harvard Yard. Heads turned. Professors smiled. Cameras clicked. Jeremy and Jordan Madison, top of their class. Twins. Best graduating students in computer engineering and public policy. Laura stood proudly between them. Elegant, glowing, fulfilled. They bore Jerry's jawline, his eyes, his voice, and he had no idea. The sky over Cambridge was crisp and blue. Just enough chill in the air to wake the senses. Flags fluttered. Choirs rehearsed in the distance. Graduates zipped into gowns and fixed caps. Families gathered in clusters, snapping photos, exchanging proud glances. Laura stood with her sons near the tall clock tower. Her silk scarf danced in the wind. At 48, she looked every inch the regal matriarch. Poised, radiant, untouched by bitterness. Jeremy straightened his tie, then turned to her. "Mom, you sure you're okay sitting in the front row? I wouldn't miss it," she smiled. "Not for the world." Jordan checked the program again. Keynote speaker, Jerry Williams. Jeremy frowned. The billionaire? Thought he disappeared after that last scandal. Laura said nothing. Jerry adjusted his cufflinks in the mirror. He still looked the part, clean-shaven, strong jaw, navy blue suit tailored to perfection. But the glint in his eyes was gone. He was back in public after years of withdrawal. Sharon hadn't joined him. She said Harvard wasn't her scene. His assistant, Tay, handed him the speech notes. "You sure you're ready for this, sir?" Jerry exhaled. "Do I have a choice?" "No, sir." He rubbed the back of his neck. Something about the day felt off. Familiar and foreign at the same time. The auditorium buzzed with applause as the dean took the podium. "Today, we celebrate brilliance, resilience, and legacy. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Jerry Williams." Thunderous applause. Cameras flashing. Jerry stepped into the spotlight. He squinted. The room was huge. And then he saw them. Front row. A woman. Her face soft but strong. Her eyes locked on him, calm, unmoved. Two young men sat on either side of her. Identical. Black suits. Gold honor sashes. Their faces his own. Jerry froze mid-step. No. He blinked. The younger one tilted his head, just slightly, in the exact way Jerry used to when confused. The other adjusted his sleeve, thumb and pinky tucked in, his old nervous tick. The crowd clapped again, urging him forward. His heart slammed against his ribs. The world swirled. Could it be? "Laura, this won't change anything," he'd shouted as she stood at the door that last night. "I know," she said quietly. "That's why I'm leaving." He remembered the way her eyes had looked. Red but dry. She didn't beg, didn't curse, just left. He never followed. Jerry stood at the podium. Thousands of eyes. One memory. Two sons. His voice trembled. "Thank you, Dean. And to the brilliant class of this year, congratulations. You have achieved what few can." His throat closed. "Some of you were raised by single parents. Some of you had to fight past rejection, poverty, racism, maybe even abandonment." Jeremy's jaw tightened. Laura lowered her gaze. Jerry continued. "But despite everything, you stand here, unbroken. The room went silent. He didn't read from his notes. He couldn't. Valedictorians, Jeremy and Jordan Madison. The crowd erupted. The twins stood. Jerry watched them walk up the stage. Every step hit him like a hammer. His sons. Same stride, same smirk, same defiance in the brow. They didn't glance at him. He turned his eyes to Laura. She was already looking at him. Still calm, still silent, but her eyes said everything. This is what you left. People took pictures. Professors mingled. Families embraced. Jerry stayed in the corner, speechless. His assistant approached, unsure. You okay, sir? I need a minute. He stepped outside into the courtyard, air sharp in his lungs. Behind him, laughter. Familiar laughter. Laura. He turned. She was standing alone, the twins walking ahead with friends. Laura? She didn't look surprised, only tired. Hello, Jerry. His voice cracked. Are they? They're your sons. Boom. Just like that. He staggered slightly. The truth landed like a blow to the chest. Why didn't you? You didn't ask. You threw me out. Remember? He blinked, as if trying to erase it. She stepped closer. 15 years, Jerry. I raised them. I told them the truth, but not the pain. He swallowed hard. They're brilliant. They are. Pause. Can I talk to them? She looked over at the boys. They're adults now. You'll have to ask them. She turned and walked away. The sky had dimmed to a burnt orange as the post-ceremony crowd thinned. Jerry stood under a stone arch, pacing slightly, hands trembling in his pockets. Across the lawn, Jeremy and Jordan laughed with a group of classmates near the old library steps. He watched them, his sons. He had no right to call them that. Not yet. Just walk over, he muttered to himself. But how do you walk into 15 years of silence? He took a shaky step, then another. They saw him coming. Jeremy's face hardened first. Jordan narrowed his eyes. Their friends excused themselves politely, sensing tension. Now it was just the three of them, standing in a triangle of unspoken pain. Jerry tried to smile. Hi. Jeremy nodded slightly, cold, measured. Jordan crossed his arms. I just wanted to say congratulations. You're late, Jeremy said bluntly. Jerry flinched. I know, he said, voice quiet. 15 years late, Jordan added. He nodded again. I deserve that. Silence. A bird chirped somewhere behind them. I didn't know. Jeremy cut him off. Don't lie. You didn't ask. You didn't call. You didn't care. The words sliced clean. I was a fool, Jerry admitted. I let people around me poison my heart. Jordan scoffed. Must have been a really big cup of poison to miss a whole pregnancy. Jeremy turned to his brother. Let's go. They started walking away. Jerry reached out instinctively. Please. Jeremy stopped but didn't turn around. I just want a chance. Not to rewrite the past, but to be part of your future. Now Jordan turned. That future doesn't need you. Why don't we have a dad? Jeremy had asked once. Laura had swallowed hard. You do. But sometimes, people lose themselves so much, they forget what they left behind. Jordan had nodded. So he forgot us? She smiled through tears. He didn't know you existed, but he forgot me, and that was enough. You don't know our birthdays, Jeremy said flatly. June 12th, Jerry replied. I know now. Jordan's eyes flicked. Favorite color? Jerry hesitated. Blue. They both shook their heads. We're not looking for a father, Jeremy said. We already had a mother, and that was enough. They walked off. Jerry stood still as a statue, his breath visible in the cooling air. The twins never looked back. Laura poured tea as Jerry sat on the other end of the room. I didn't expect them to forgive me, he said. They don't hate you, but they're not ready to trust you. I want to earn it. She stirred her cup, eyes fixed on the swirling liquid. Then don't rush them. Show up consistently, quietly, without expectation. He nodded. They're not little boys anymore, Jerry. You'll have to meet them as men. Jeremy, he actually tried. Jordan, I saw. Still don't trust him. Jeremy, same. But Mom looked at peace. That scares me more. Jordan, think she still loves him? Jeremy, maybe. But I don't think she needs him. Jordan, neither do we. He stared at a photo on his phone. It was taken during the ceremony. Laura with the twins, all three laughing. He zoomed in. Their eyes. His eyes. He whispered to himself, God, what have I done? It had been raining all morning. Gray clouds hung low like grief refusing to lift. Laura walked briskly through the private terminal, her heels clicking against the marble. The boys rolled their carry-ons behind her, both dressed in matching sweats, headphones around their necks. They were flying back to Los Angeles on her father's private jet. But when they reached the gate, the pilot approached with concern. Ma'am, I'm afraid there's a mechanical issue. One of the engines is showing abnormal oil pressure. FAA says we'll be grounded until inspection clears. Laura blinked. How long? Could be 24 hours. Maybe more. Jeremy groaned. No offense, but Boston's not exactly where I plan to spend another night. Jordan rubbed his forehead. Guess we'll grab a hotel. Just then, a voice behind them spoke. You don't need to. They all turned. Jerry. He stood a few feet away, holding a duffel bag, rainwater dripping from his coat. I have a townhouse, 5 minutes from here. More than enough room. Jeremy gave a sarcastic smile. Yeah, I bet. Laura glanced at the boys. It's one night, and it's pouring. Jordan sighed. Fine, but I'm sleeping near the exits. The house was warm, minimal, surprisingly quiet for someone so wealthy. Art pieces lined the walls, most of them abstract, confused, loud, the kind people buy when they don't know who they are anymore. Jerry gave them a brief tour. Kitchens stocked, Wi-Fi passwords on the fridge. Jordan was already sprawled on the couch, scrolling. Jeremy stood by the window, arms crossed. Laura made herself tea in the kitchen, old habits. Jerry tried not to watch her, but he failed. The sight of her standing there like she belonged. He looked away. They sat around the table, Jerry, Laura, the twins. Felt surreal. Jerry cleared his throat. I don't cook, but I ordered in from Brava. Hope you still like Moroccan. Laura glanced up. You remembered? He nodded. Some things stick. Jeremy raised an eyebrow. Like our birthdays? Jerry nodded again. I deserve that. They ate mostly in silence, forks clinking against ceramic. Midway through, Jordan asked, So, what do you do now? Jerry shrugged. Stepped back from the board 2 years ago. Investments, real estate, a few charity boards. Jeremy smirked. Charity? That's rich. Jeremy, Laura began. It's okay. Jerry interrupted gently. He's right. You can't donate your way out of being a bad father. A beat of silence. Laura looked down at her plate. Jordan softened. Just a little. So, you admit it? Jerry nodded. I admit everything. I failed your mother. I failed you. I failed myself. That landed differently. Not defensive. Not performative. Just true. As if the universe wanted to turn the volume up on tension. Thunder cracked across the sky, followed by a complete blackout. The whole house fell into darkness. Great, Jeremy muttered. Add horror movie to this reunion. Jerry grabbed candles from the drawer. Storm must have hit the transformer. Generator will kick in soon. Laura lit a candle at the center of the room. The flickering flame cast shadows across their faces, like truth rising from silence. The generator stalled. Wi-Fi was out. Phones died. No distractions. Just family. They sat in the living room, wrapped in throw blankets, sipping warm cider Jerry had somehow managed to prepare. So, Jordan asked, stretching his legs, what made you stop being you? Jerry chuckled dryly. Which version of me? The one who blew it all up, Jeremy clarified. Jerry leaned back, staring at the ceiling. There wasn't one moment. It was slow. I started thinking I was invincible, that love would wait. That Laura would always be there. He looked at her. She was. Until she couldn't be anymore. Laura didn't respond. He turned to the boys. Then I met someone else. Thought I found freedom. Turned out I found a cage. A beautiful one. With locks I couldn't see until it was too late. Jordan looked at him. She couldn't have kids? Jerry hesitated, then nodded. Doctors said her past caused permanent damage. Jeremy rubbed his jaw. So karma really is that punctual, huh? Jerry didn't deny it. Only 2 guest rooms, Jerry explained. And I can take the couch. Jordan smirked. Nah, I'll take the couch. Make sure you don't run. Jerry chuckled. Fair. Jeremy took the larger guest room. Laura insisted on staying in the smaller one. Jerry watched her walk away. So much had changed. And yet, some part of her still walked with the same grace he remembered. I saw him last night, really saw him. Not the man from stories. Not the villain in our bedtime parables. Just a tired, broken man who let something beautiful slip through his fingers. I don't know what scares me more, hating him or understanding him. The storm had passed. Soft light filtered through the blinds as Jeremy brewed coffee. Jordan scrolled through his phone silently. Laura sat on the bar stool with a book. She hadn't turned the page in 10 minutes. Jerry walked in quietly, wearing a plain t-shirt, looking like a man who hadn't slept much. Morning, he said, his voice cautious. Morning, Jordan replied first. A truce. Jeremy passed him a mug. Not warm, not cold, neutral. They sat, all 4, breakfast in awkward silence. I found out I was pregnant the day after I left, she said softly, not looking up from her cup. The air in the kitchen stopped moving. Jerry blinked. I didn't know. I know. She turned her eyes to the window. I went to my father's house. Told no one for weeks. I was afraid people would say I was using the pregnancy to bring you back. Jordan frowned. You didn't even call? Laura turned to him. Would you have? He said nothing. Laura sat alone in the doctor's office, clutching the ultrasound photo. 2 small pulses, 2 lives, and her mother held her shoulders as she wept. I stayed for him, prayed for him. I begged God, and in the end, I walked in on him, in our bed. Mr. Madison entered. You don't need him, not for this. We'll raise them as Madisons. I wasn't drunk that night, Jerry said. When you saw me with her, they all turned to look at him. I was wide awake. I was making a choice, and it haunts me. Jeremy's fingers tightened around his mug. I wish I could tell you it was one mistake, but it wasn't. It was a slow poisoning. I let men around me define manhood. I stopped praying. I stopped thinking. I stopped seeing you. He looked at Laura now. You were my home, and I burned it down. Laura looked like she might cry, but she didn't. Did you ever wonder about us? Jordan asked. Jerry nodded. Every year, every birthday I forgot to mark, every Father's Day, I'd wonder if I deserved to know, or if I'd just ruin your lives like I ruined hers. Jeremy tilted his head. So you stayed away out of guilt? Jerry looked at him. Out of fear. You want to know what hurt the most? Laura whispered. They nodded. I used to leave the porch light on every night, for almost a year, hoping maybe, just maybe, you'd come back. Not to fight, not to beg, just to say you saw me. Silence filled the room like fog. Jerry buried his face in his hands. I saw you, Laura. I just didn't think I deserved you. She stood up quietly. You didn't. And yet, her voice held no hatred, just truth. Later that day, Jordan wandered into the study. His fingers drifted over a small locked drawer in Jerry's desk. It was slightly ajar. Inside, a single letter, dated 5 years ago. He pulled it out and read. To my sons, Jeremy and Jordan. I don't know your faces, your voices, your laughs, but I know you're out there. I see you in every father I pass. I'm sorry. I don't ask for love. I don't deserve it. I just hope, one day, you'll know that your absence was the only thing that ever truly sobered me. Dad. Jordan folded it back quietly, eyes wet. By evening, the pilot called Laura. "Ma'am, the jet's cleared. We're ready when you are." She hung up and turned to the boys. "Do you want to go tonight?" Jeremy looked at Jerry. Jordan did too. Then Jordan said, "Let's stay one more night." Jeremy nodded. "Yeah, I'm tired anyway." Jerry didn't react, but his eyes said it all. They weren't forgiving him, but they weren't leaving either. Jordan sat on the couch in Jerry's study late at night, bored, scrolling his father's unlocked tablet. Not snooping, just curious. An unread message flashed on screen. "So Harvard was just a detour? Thought you were over that whole guilt trip thing. You're not really trying to win them back, are you?" Jordan blinked. He scrolled. "You left a whole legacy behind for what? Twins who don't know you and a woman who hates you? Come back to reality, Jerry. I miss you. We were a team." His stomach dropped. He felt sick. So all of this, the bonding, the soft conversations, the quiet breakfasts, was just performance? He didn't confront Jerry right away. Instead, he forwarded the message to Jeremy. 5 minutes later, Jeremy burst into the room. "You said you weren't in love with her," he snapped. "You said you left that behind." Jerry blinked, confused. "I did. I have." Jordan threw the tablet down. "Then explain this." Jerry's eyes widened as he read the message. "It's not what you think." "Don't," Jeremy said coldly. "Please, don't insult us." Laura stood in the hallway, watching the confrontation unfold. She'd overheard every word. When Jerry looked to her for defense, she shook her head. "Don't look at me." "Laura, I didn't reply to her. You saw the timestamp. I didn't even read the message." "But you didn't delete her either," she said quietly, like a mother scolding a child. "She's part of your past, Jerry. One that blew my life apart. And now she's still whispering in your ear." "I wasn't going to go back," he pleaded. "But you didn't tell her to stop either. You let her believe she still had a place in your life." She turned away. People don't change when they avoid confrontation. They change when they close doors. Loudly, permanently, painfully. Jerry stepped toward her. "Laura!" She stopped. Her voice broke. "I almost believed in you again." He said nothing, because there was nothing he could say. Climax 3. The twins walk out. The next morning, the house was silent. Too silent. Jeremy was packed. Jordan too. Laura hadn't slept. They stood by the front door with their bags. Jerry stood in the hallway, not trying to stop them, just absorbing the weight of his collapse. Jeremy looked him in the eyes. "I let my guard down. That's on me." "You didn't have to lie to us," Jordan added. "You could have just said you weren't ready." "I didn't lie," Jerry said quietly. "I've made mistakes. I didn't delete that message, but I also didn't respond. I'm not that man anymore." Jeremy scoffed. "Then maybe you should have told her that directly." Jordan turned to Laura. "You coming with us?" She hesitated, looked at Jerry, the man who'd shattered her once, almost won her again. "I'll come later," she said. The boys nodded and walked out. Jerry didn't chase them. He sat on the stairs, head in his hands. It was all slipping again, and this time he had no one to blame. The house was quieter than it had ever been. Laura sat in the kitchen, staring into a cold cup of tea. Jerry sat across from her, not speaking, just breathing. "I read your letter," she finally said. He looked up, surprised. "The one you never sent, about regret." "I didn't think it was enough." "It wasn't," she replied honestly, "but it was real. And that's more than I got from you for 15 years. He looked away. She leaned in. "I believed in a version of you that no longer exists. But I'm starting to think, maybe this man right here, is learning how to tell the truth." He looked into her eyes. "Do you want me to leave?" She sighed. "No, but I need to know the next thing you say to me isn't a performance. That if you love me or want to rebuild, you'll say it when you're ready to mean it." "I'm not ready," Jerry admitted, "but I'm willing." That was the first real answer he'd ever given. And for now, it was enough. Back in Los Angeles, Jeremy sat alone in the guest house behind the Madison estate. The early morning sun poured through the blinds, but it didn't warm the ache in his chest. He scrolled through photos on his phone. Some from graduation, some from Boston, a few blurry shots of Jerry making pancakes. He should have deleted them. Instead, he stared at one where Jerry was laughing with Jordan during that FIFA match. It was real. That moment was real. So why did it feel like betrayal? His thumb hovered over the delete button but wouldn't press it. Was he too angry? Or too scared to let go? His mother knocked softly on the door before entering. She didn't say anything at first, just sat beside him. He lied, Jeremy muttered. Or maybe not. But he left the door open. And after everything, he should have slammed it shut. Laura didn't argue. Instead, she handed him something. A folded sheet of paper. Familiar handwriting. Jerry's. To Jeremy, you are stronger than I ever was. Smarter too. But strength can become armor, and armor can become a prison. I hope you let people in before it hardens you into someone like me. Jeremy's throat tightened. He looked at his mother. You didn't tell me there was another letter. He didn't tell me either, she replied. I found it in his jacket when I was packing your things. Jeremy didn't know whether to feel rage or relief. So instead, he cried for the father he hated and the version of him he almost loved. Across the estate, Jordan stood in front of a blank canvas. He hadn't painted in days. Not since Boston. The house was too quiet, his thoughts too loud. He kept replaying that night. The confrontation, the message from Sharon, the way Jerry's face fell like a crumbling statue. He hated how much it hurt to walk away. He should have felt stronger for it. Instead, he just felt disconnected until his email pinged. Jordan hesitated, then opened it. She called. I answered. To end it. For real this time. I told her not to contact me again. I told her I loved someone else, even if she'd never love me back. I told her that trying to be a father now doesn't erase what I missed, but it can redeem what I have left. That was the first time I didn't flinch while choosing pain over comfort. Attached was an audio recording. Jerry's voice, shaky but calm, as he spoke to Sharon, cutting off the final tie. Jordan closed the email, heart racing. He pulled out a brush. Then he painted. Not abstract this time, but a portrait. Jerry. Not perfect. Not smiling. Just human. Laura sat in her garden at dusk, the scent of lavender and rosemary rising around her. She wore one of Jerry's old sweaters, the gray one he left behind years ago. She had kept it in a forgotten box, hidden even from herself. It still smelled like him, faintly, memory-stitched fabric. Her phone buzzed. How are you doing, really? Laura stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed, I'm not angry anymore, but I'm scared. Scared that I might still love him, and that forgiving him would mean betraying the woman I became without him. Seconds later, Becky replied, or maybe it means honoring her, by giving her peace instead of pain. Laura looked out at the horizon. She'd spent 15 years being strong, holding it all in, raising her boys, building walls, but strength without softness was just another kind of armor. She picked up the letter Jerry had slipped into her suitcase before she left Boston. The envelope read, only open when you think you hate me again. She opened it. You think you hate me, but you don't. You hate what I cost you. You hate that I didn't chase you the night you left. You hate that I made you strong by breaking you. And I hate me too. But if hate is all you have left to give me, I'll take it. Because even that means I'm still in your heart. Laura pressed the letter to her chest, and for the first time in years, she whispered his name. Not in anger, but in longing. Jerry. Jerry sat at the edge of his bed, fingers hovering over his phone screen, the blinking cursor daring him to write something that didn't feel like begging. He typed, to Laura, I'm not asking for another chance. I'm just asking to be near what I broke. I'll be at the Madison Foundation Gala tonight. I heard your sons are being honored. I'll be in the back. If you don't want to see me, just don't look. But I'll be looking. I always have. Jay. He hit send, then exhaled. The ballroom of the Four Seasons was filled with golden light, clinking glasses, and whispers of prestige. Jeremy and Jordan were being awarded for launching an initiative that paired underprivileged teens with mentors in tech and public policy. They walked the red carpet in matching suits. Laura followed in a black velvet gown, regal, timeless, and more composed than she felt inside. She hadn't replied to Jerry's message, but she'd read it 3 times. From the far end of the ballroom, Jerry stood quietly by the wall. No entourage, no fanfare. Just a man trying to be present without intruding. When he saw Laura enter, he didn't move. When he saw the twins holding their plaques and smiling for photos, he didn't approach. He just watched, until Jeremy noticed him. Their eyes locked. Jerry gave a small nod, not a plea, just presence. Jeremy hesitated, then nodded back. That was the first thread. Later that evening, Jeremy found himself near the dessert table. Jerry stood across from him, looking at the mini cheesecakes like they held life's answers. "Still hate chocolate?" Jerry asked softly. Jeremy cracked a small smile. "I never hated chocolate. That was Jordan." Jerry's eyes lit up. "Right? You were the picky eater. You'd only eat your mom's chicken curry and cereal." Jeremy took a breath. "She still makes it. You'd hate how much better it's gotten." "I'd believe it," Jerry said. They stood in silence. Then Jeremy asked, "Did you really cut her off?" Jerry didn't have to ask who he meant. "Sharon? Yes. I haven't spoken to her since that call. Changed my number. Made it legal. Permanent." Jeremy gave him a long, unreadable look, then nodded once. That was the second thread. Jordan stood at the podium to give their acceptance speech. He looked sharp, collected, until he paused halfway through. "I'd like to thank our mom," he said. "The woman who carried us, raised us, fought for us, even when she had every right to walk away." The room applauded. "But I'd also like to thank someone else. Not because he earned it, but because I finally realized forgiveness isn't about who deserves it." Everyone stilled. Laura turned to him slowly. Jordan's eyes found Jerry at the back. "I'd like to thank our biological father for showing me the man I don't want to be, and the man I hope he's becoming." Some gasped. Others clapped, cautiously. But Jerry nearly broke. He turned his face, eyes wet. Jordan stepped off the podium, walked past Laura, and stopped right in front of Jerry. "You have one chance," he said, voice low. "Don't screw it up." Then walked away. That was the third thread. The gala had ended. The guests were gone. Only a few lingered under the chandeliers. Jerry waited outside near the valet. Laura appeared, clutching her coat, face unreadable. She stood beside him. They didn't speak at first, just breathed. Then Laura said, "You didn't try to make a scene tonight. I told you, I'm not here to perform." "I know." She looked up at him. "You meant what you said in that message?" He nodded. "Every word." She looked away, almost shy for the first time in years. "I still don't know what we are, Jerry." He nodded again. "That's okay. I'll wait." She started walking toward her car, but paused at the door. Without turning, she asked, "Do you still wear cologne?" He blinked. "Why?" She smiled faintly. "Because the suit smelled like regret and memory." Then she got in the car and drove off. But she left something behind. 2 mornings after the gala, Jerry received a package at his apartment. No name on the return address. Inside, a small velvet box. He opened it. Inside was a gold cufflink. He recognized it instantly. It was one of the pair he wore on their wedding day. Just one. The second was missing. Taped beneath the box was a handwritten note. "If you're still wearing it 5 years from now, maybe I'll return the second one. Laura." Jerry held it in his hand like it was sacred. Not because it promised reconciliation, but because it promised possibility. "Jeremy," he looked like he was gonna cry when you thanked him. "Jordan, I wanted him to." Jeremy, "Still don't trust him fully." Jordan, "Me either. But for the first time, I think he trusts himself. That counts for something." Jeremy, "Think mom's gonna go back?" Jordan, "I don't think she left him. I think she left the version of him that made her feel invisible." Jeremy, "And if that version's really gone, Jordan, then maybe she'll let him come home. Jerry had changed, not dramatically but visibly. He lived quieter now. No parties, no headlines, no circles of friends feeding his ego. The man who once thrived on chaos now rose at 5:30 a.m., jogged in silence, read scripture by the window, and volunteered weekly at a youth mentorship program in South Central LA. The same one his sons had helped fund. He never mentioned it to them. He didn't want praise. He wanted peace. It was Jordan who saw him first. Jerry didn't notice. He was kneeling beside a teenager, teaching him how to wire a motherboard with patient focus. Jordan stood at the back of the classroom with one of the program leads. "You know him?" the woman asked. Jordan nodded. "Too well. Kids love him," she said. "Comes every Saturday. Always quiet. Never late." Jordan didn't approach him. But when he left, he dropped a folded note on the volunteer table. Jerry found it an hour later. "Don't stop, Jay." That was enough to keep him coming. 3 weeks later, Jeremy launched his first photo exhibition, a collection of documentary images capturing human resilience in the inner city. He didn't invite Jerry, but Jerry came anyway. He didn't walk the red carpet, didn't go to the front. He stayed in the back of the crowd, letting his sun shine, until Jeremy spotted him. He met him by a photograph of an old homeless veteran clutching a Bible. "This one's my favorite," Jerry said softly. "Mine too," Jeremy replied. "I call it Faith in Ruins." Jerry looked at his son. "That's me. That was me. And I'm trying to rebuild." Jeremy didn't answer, but he didn't walk away. Laura hadn't spoken to Jerry directly in weeks, but she watched from afar. She knew about the volunteering. She heard about the gallery. She even saw the small news blurb that Jerry had donated a private property in his name to house abandoned single mothers. Quietly, no press conference, just signed papers and walked away. And her mother noticed too. "You used to wait for him to change," and said one afternoon as they tended to the garden. "Now he's changing without you watching." "I'm still watching," Laura whispered, and smiled. On a quiet Thursday evening, her phone rang. Jerry. She stared at it, then answered. "Laura. Hi. I don't know what I'm allowed to say." "You're allowed to speak, just not pretend." He let out a breath. "I've been writing a journal. Every day. I haven't missed one." "For what?" "For me. And maybe one day, for you." Pause. "Can I send you a few pages?" "Only if they're real. I promise." She hung up without saying goodbye. But she didn't block him. The next morning, a soft leather-bound package arrived. Inside, printed entries from Jerry's journal. Laura sat by the window and read. Day 26. "I didn't cry today, but I also didn't smile. Just sat in silence. I think silence is what fathers should have to sit in when their kids don't call back." Day 40. "Volunteering doesn't make me noble. It makes me human again. I used to think being a man meant being powerful. Now I think it means being safe to love." Day 53. "I saw a photo of Laura on a billboard. She's being honored by a women's leadership group. She looked like royalty. I whispered thank you, even though she'll never hear it." Day 60. Still wearing the cufflink, Laura closed the journal. Her hands were shaking. One Sunday evening, Laura invited both her sons to dinner at the estate. During dessert, she casually mentioned, "I was thinking of having Jerry over. For dinner. Just dinner. Nothing more." Jeremy's fork paused mid-air. "You sure?" "No," she said honestly. "But I'm ready to see if I can be." Jordan leaned back. "If it's what you want, we'll support it. But you know you don't owe him anything, right?" Laura smiled. "It's not about what I owe him. It's about what I owe myself. Closure. Or maybe something more." Jerry came the next Sunday. Wore no cologne. Brought no gift. He showed up with a pie he'd baked himself. It was terrible. Overcooked and slightly burnt. Jordan joked. "This isn't how you bribe your way back in." Jerry smiled. "It's not a bribe. Just proof I'm trying." Dinner was quiet. Not tense. Just unfamiliar. They didn't talk about the past. They talked about the future. Jerry asked about Jeremy's upcoming documentary series. He asked Jordan what colors he was painting with these days. He didn't make it about himself. That was new. Before he left, Jerry reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. He handed it to Laura, but didn't ask her to open it. Inside was the second cufflink. She looked up at him. "I said 5 years," she whispered. "I'm not asking you to wear it. I just didn't want it to feel lost anymore." She didn't answer, but she didn't return it. "My father taught me many things, some through presence, most through absence. What I know now is that redemption isn't a gift you get from others. It's a posture you take when no one's looking. A man who was once a hurricane is now a quiet man with weathered hands. I don't know if he'll ever be dad to me, but he's no longer a stranger. And for now, that's enough." Laura's office smelled of fresh lilies and the faint scent of espresso. She was reviewing a proposal when her assistant burst in. "Ma'am, there's a situation." Laura stood. "What kind of situation?" "There's been an electrical fire in the tech lab, where the mentorship program is run. One of the volunteers stayed back and tried to control it before the fire trucks got there. He's been taken to the hospital." Laura's heart dropped. "Who?" The assistant hesitated. "Jerry Williams." Laura arrived at the ER with her sons behind her. The air was thick with antiseptic and the low murmur of controlled chaos. A nurse approached. "Minor second-degree burns on his hands and forearm. Smoke inhalation. He should recover fully." But he passed out from exhaustion. They found him asleep in the room. For drip in one arm, oxygen mask lightly strapped, gauze on his hands. He looked small. The man who once filled rooms with arrogance now lay still, burned, bruised, but brave. Jordan whispered, "He stayed to save the kids' robotics kits. The stuff we funded." Laura didn't say anything. She walked to his bedside, Saturday, and held his unbandaged hand. "I told you to stop proving yourself," she whispered. A tear slid down her cheek. "I already see you." Jerry stirred hours later. Eyes blinked open. He looked around, disoriented, then saw her. "Laura, I'm here. You came. I always do." "That's the problem," she said with a bitter chuckle. But she didn't let go of his hand. He smiled weakly. "I didn't do it for attention." "I know," she said. Silence. Then, "You scared me." "I scare myself sometimes," he whispered. Jeremy and Jordan stepped in quietly. Jerry tried to sit up but winced. "Don't move," Jeremy said. Jordan pulled up a chair. "We talked to the EMTs," Jeremy said. "They said you covered a kid with your body when the ceiling caved." Jerry nodded. "He was 10. Reminded me of you. I couldn't let him get crushed." Jordan leaned forward. "You know, Dad." Jerry froze. Jordan caught himself. "I mean, Jerry." "No," Jerry interrupted. "It's okay, Dad." That one almost felt right. Jeremy smirked. Almost. The three of them laughed. It was awkward, beautiful, earned. Later, when they were alone again, Laura said, "You wrote once that you didn't deserve forgiveness. That maybe you never would." He nodded. "I still believe that," he said. She reached into her purse, pulled out the second cufflink, set it on the tray beside his bed. "Then stop asking for it," she said. "Just live like a man who's already been given it." He looked up, and for the first time in 16 years, she kissed his forehead. It had been years since Jerry Williams was invited to dinner at the Madison estate. Not as a guest, not as a father, not even as a former husband. He had once walked out of this house as a man who abandoned his family. Now he walked in, not to be received, but to observe, to learn, and maybe to be welcome. He brought no wine, no flowers, no rehearsed apologies, only his journal, tucked into his coat. The table was already set. Linen, crystal, gold-trimmed china, and Madison, always the perfect hostess, greeted him with a warm, restrained smile. "You look better," she said. Jerry nodded. "Still sore, I imagine." She said nothing else, but didn't ask him to leave. Progress. Jordan and Jeremy sat on opposite sides of the table. Jerry took the seat at the far end, not at the head. He didn't even glance at it. He knew where he stood. Dinner was served in courses. First soup, then roast chicken, then salad with mandarin slices and almonds, Laura's favorite. Everyone made small talk. No one mentioned the fire. No one mentioned the past, until the silence became too loud. "Do you remember the first lie you told us?" Jeremy asked suddenly. The table paused. Jerry looked up slowly. When you were still married to Mom." "I was 8. Jordan blinked. 8. Jeremy nodded. "You told me you'd take us to the science fair. Then you never came. Said something about traffic." Jerry closed his eyes. "I wasn't in traffic," he said. "I was at a club." Jeremy nodded. "I know. Mom cried in the kitchen. She tried to hide it. But I knew." Jordan looked down. "I'm sorry," Jerry whispered. Jeremy folded his arms. "I don't need sorry." Jerry looked confused. "Then what do you need?" "I need you to never lie to us again. Even if the truth hurts. Even if it costs you everything." Jerry swallowed hard. "Then I promise from this moment on, if I have to speak, it will always be the truth." "I read your journal," Jordan said. Jerry froze. "I asked Mom to send me a few entries. She didn't want to, but I begged." He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. "Entry 103. You wrote, 'I never hated Laura for leaving. I hated that she did what I never had the courage to do. Walk away from something toxic.'" Jerry nodded slowly. "I remember writing that." Jordan looked at his mother. "She did walk away, but she never healed fully." Laura stiffened. "Jordan." "No, Mom. Let me say it." He turned back to Jerry. "You didn't just steal her joy. You stole her permission to ever love anyone again. Even herself." The room stilled. Then Jerry asked softly, "What would you have me do to make that right?" Jordan said nothing at first. Then, "Keep becoming the man you are now, so she can stop remembering the one you were." The clink of silverware filled the silence. The air was thick with unspoken things. Laura had not spoken for minutes. Now she set her fork down. "I used to practice conversations with you in my head," she said. "In the shower, in the car, when the boys were asleep." Jerry looked up. "They always ended one of two ways, you begging me to take you back, or me cursing you for leaving. But this," she gestured around, "this is something I never imagined. You're not begging, and I'm not angry. I'm just watching." Jerry nodded. "I want to be someone worth watching." At the end of dinner, Laura reached beneath her chair and pulled out an envelope. She slid it across the table to Jerry. He opened it. Inside, a single sheet of paper. It was a family therapy session reservation paid in full. 3 sessions. "With Becky," she said. Jerry looked up, stunned. "You want to go to counseling? With me?" "No," she said softly. "I want us to go. All of us." She looked at her sons. "Because if there's going to be peace, real peace, it has to be built, not imagined." Jeremy looked at Jordan. Jordan nodded. Jerry blinked back tears. "I'll be there." They didn't hug. They didn't cry. They didn't walk out holding hands. But when Jerry got into his car that night, he didn't feel empty. He felt seen. Not as a man who came back begging, but as one who stayed long enough to become worthy of being seen again. And in the rearview mirror, he caught the briefest glimpse of Laura, standing at the front door, not waving, just watching. Beautiful, we've arrived at the final chapter of this epic love and redemption journey. The air was cooler this time. Leaves fell in gold spirals around the courtyard as families gathered for the university's Founders' Day honors, an elite event recognizing alumni and families contributing to global impact. At the front of the prestigious hall hung a massive banner, Madison Initiative for Generational Healing. Below it stood Laura, radiant in a maroon coat, flanked by Jeremy and Jordan, both now rising stars in their fields. Today, the university was honoring her. But there was one more surprise. The event organizer stepped up. This year, we are honored to welcome a man whose journey represents the power of accountability, personal transformation, and the healing of family legacy. Please welcome our surprise speaker, Mr. Jerry Williams. The audience murmured. Some clapped, some whispered, but the front row didn't move. Jeremy and Jordan didn't flinch. Laura looked up at the stage and smiled, not because Jerry was on stage, but because he was finally speaking like a man who didn't need applause to feel whole. He stood at the podium. No paper, no rehearsed charm, just truth. Good evening. A year ago, I stood in the same courtyard and saw my past staring me in the face. 2 sons I didn't raise, a woman I didn't deserve, and a legacy I almost lost. He paused. I spent decades building a business, but it took me losing my family to learn the real architecture of manhood. Humility, consistency, and the courage to let people change their minds about you and about themselves. He turned to Laura, to the woman who prayed for me when I didn't deserve it, who walked away when I gave her every reason to, who raised 2 kings with grace, power, and silent sacrifice. He choked. You built an empire without me, and yet you've allowed me to stand beside it, not as ruler, not as rescuer, but as a man rebuilding brick by brick. Laura's eyes welled. Jordan blinked fast. Jeremy looked at the ground. Jerry continued. To my sons, thank you for not choosing the easy road of hatred. You taught me how to be a father by showing me what kind of man I could still become. He ended with one line. I didn't come here to rewrite the past. I came to say, thank you for letting me have a future. Later that day, someone snapped a photo. Jerry standing beside Laura, with his arms around both sons. Not staged, not posed, just a family, imperfect, but whole. The caption read, some families break, others bend, and some, against all odds, rebuild. The photo went viral, not because they were celebrities, but because the story was universal. That evening, back home, Laura stepped onto the front porch. The air was cool, the wind gentle. She reached up and turned off the porch light, the same one she had left on for a year, 15 years ago. Not because she was giving up, but because he had come home. Jerry stood behind her, holding 2 mugs of tea. They sat on the porch swing, silent. No music, no forced romance, just the soft creak of wood and the rustling of leaves. Then, Laura, he said quietly, I love you. She turned to him. I know, she whispered. This time, I believe you. And for the first time in forever, she said it back.